Welcome to Paris Image Online. My name is Elsa Keslassy and I'm Variety's Paris-based correspondent. This second roundtable called Digital Playtime will discuss France's robust animation, VFX and VR industries and the impact of the country's tax rebate, as well as a rising content demand from streaming services. We'll also discuss the training programs that have nurtured a new generation of new creatives. So with us today, we have Béatrice Bauwens, who is the head of MPC Films and has done VFX on a lot of blockbusters and critically acclaimed movies, and most recently Ridley Scott's The Last Duel. Hello, Béatrice.
Hello.
Thank you
Nice
for being here.
You.
We have Antoine Cayrol, who is the co-founder of Atlas V, which is a very successful virtual reality company which has had a lot of VR experiments playing at top festivals like Venice and Sundance, and notably produced the VR experiment Sphere, which was executive produced by Darren Aronofsky, and also Ayahuasca, which was created by Jan Kunen. Thank you so much for being here. And we have Cécile Blondel, who's the Director of International Development at Les Gobelins, which is one of the most prestigious animation schools in Europe. And last but not least, we have Jacques Bled, who's here with us today, on virtually speaking, and is the president of Illumination McGuff, which is behind some of the biggest blockbusters in animation, Despicable Me, The Minions, and most recently, of course, Sing, which just had its world premiere in LA that you attended, Jacques. Thank you for being with us virtually.
Okay, thank you. I'm here.
Okay, so we're going to start with you, actually, Jacques. You're the biggest success story in France's animation industry. Your company, Illumination McGuff, is based in Paris and is part of Chris Meledandri's Illumination, which is owned by Universal. And you're behind a flurry of animation blockbuster franchises like the one that I just mentioned, Despicable Me, Minions, and Sing. And what's interesting, and that what many people don't realize, is that those movies are actually all made in France. Can you tell us, how many animators do you have working on these?
Currently, the studio, we have more than 900 people working on the movie. And as you mentioned, Elsa, the Illumination McGuff is a subsidiary of Universal, and we are devoted and dedicated to make animation movie for Universal. And those movies have been produced here in LA by Chris Meledandri. Chris Meledandri formerly was producer at Fox. He was the creator of Ice Age. And after that, he came to Universal, and we decided to work together now almost 14 years ago with the first Despicable Me in 2008. And this movie had been released in 2010, and in 2011, we decided to create Illumination McGuff, which is a company based in Paris, which is a Universal subsidiary. And this is a kind of magic triangle in between Universal, Illumination, and Illumination McGuff. Universal is financing and distributing all the movie, and Illumination is producing the movie, and Illumination McGuff in Paris is making the movie. So that means that we have a lot of animators, people, all the department needed for making an animation movie. And as you mentioned, we have been very successful, and I think very lucky, because when we start working, the first release was Despicable Me. And after
what year
that,
was it? 10 years? How many years was Despicable Me?
Despicable Me has been starting in 2008 and released in 2010. And now the first 9 movies that Illumination McGuff produced have generated more than $6.5 billion at the box office. So
impressive.
It's a big success, because after that we have Minions, we have Sing, we have Pets, and now we are working on 4 new movies. And this is the reason why the studio is really empty now. Because we have 4 movies at the same time, which is a big challenge.
Yes,
And
it's amazing.
Yeah,
You have how many animators you have working for you? 900, I think, right?
900 for the whole department. In Paris, we are starting working on the storyboard and all the visual development until the end. And the only thing with making in America is the DI and the sound. The sound is done at Skywalker and the DI is done at eFilm.
Impressive. Why do you think they chose you to do all these movies at the start?
I'm sorry, Elsa, the sound is not very good.
Okay, I said, why do you think that Chris Meledandri chose you, McGuff, at the time to make all these films?
Well, it's a quite complicated story, but I'm gonna try to be simple. At this time, when Chris decided to leave Fox, and that was the time when DreamWorks and Paramount decided to split, and that means that Universal won't have any family animation business anymore. So they asked Chris to come in LA because he was based at Fox and he was one of the founder of Blue Sky. So it was based in the Connecticut. He came in LA, and after that, he looked around the world what kind of partnership he can imagine with existing studio. And at the meantime, a lot of big company, big studio like DreamWorks, Pixar, Disney already belongs to major company. And we were at this time in competition with Asian studio and also studio in England or in New Zealand or in Australia. And I guess the reason he chose to come to McGuff at this time, that was before the tax rebates, so that was not for financial reason. And in the meantime, the ratio in between the euro and the dollar was a nightmare because at this time, €1 was something like $1.55, so that was not a good timing for being there. And I think it came at McGuff because at this time we were working on French animation movie. One was Dragon Hunter. We have just finished before a movie with Michel Oslo, Azur and Asmar. And we were also working with a quite famous animation directors, Pierre Coffin. And I think Chris Meledandri think that we were able to do that. To be honest, at the meantime, I was not so sure. But 5 years before, I have created here in Santa Monica a subsidiary of McGuff devoted to visual effects. So that means that I have been there for a lot of time, very often. And we discussed with Chris, and after that, he decided to come in Paris. That was a kind of gamble because that was not so obvious. At the time, McGuff was in between 100 and 150 people, and not animation. Our core of business was more visual effects than animation. But the things are going well, and I think we are very lucky because Despicable Me, the first time, has been very successful because the first, I remember that the box office was more than $550 million. So that was a big success.
Congratulations,
and after that,
amazing.
Yeah.
And the company has grown by 10 times bigger. It's 10 times bigger today, your company, than it used to be 10 years ago, in a decade. So that's amazing. And friends, I mean, I think they chose you because also you are working with French artists. And I think that France, has a very deep entrenched animation culture. We have the third biggest animation industry in the world behind the US and Japan. Why do you think that is, Antoine?
I think we're really lucky to live in a country that bet a long time ago into entertainment. Not every country have an industry in entertainment that is as strong as its car industry or pharmaceutical industry. So I think it was a move that was made, honestly, I don't know when, but I know it was made decades ago, that knowing that if they give structure and power to the entertainment industry, first, it will help to create a lot of employment, but then also it will help to export the culture and make revenue back to the movie and experience we're all doing. I think even in virtual reality, what I'm doing a lot of people are saying like, "Whoa, France is really well advanced. It's really it's true." But even if VR is a new medium, it's just the continuity of all this policy and things that happening in France. That's why we have amazing students in animation. That's why we have great support into the production and distribution and exportation. So I think that's mostly thanks of the pouvoir public and what the big decision behind. And I think what is happening right now with the investment into the new technology industry in the entertainment is part of this continuity, and I hope it will not stop, because the proof is there. Like you have amazing French studios that are doing American blockbuster that I guess 99% of the American won't even know it's a French studio behind.
I know.
You know?
That's why I brought it up at the start, because not many people know that they're all created in France. For sure. And Béatrice, why do you think that France is so well positioned?
Definitely, I think we have a legacy about art first. We have also a legacy about the technical side of things. And yes, it's sure that we have very well-trained people here, and some curiosity and some, I don't know if it's typically French, but we find this a lot on the artists that are on our industry. And I think this is our strength, to have some craft, to imagine new solution for every project that came to us.
Antoine, why do you think that France is also you were saying in virtual reality, we're also well positioned? Why do you think that is, virtual reality?
I think mostly I might repeat a little bit what I just said, but maybe in more detail is like we're part of the continuity of having a state behind us. We're not the only one. Canada is doing amazing things. Australia. I'm not saying we're the only one, but we're one of the few that's giving all that strength into helping the creation, helping the creator, helping the producer. So I think that's why VR went so fast in France. You know, like we have this support, and this support existed before I start VR, and we just know how to use it. And also having all these students that are really well trained, and of course I'm looking at you, but you're not the only school, but you're a pretty good one.
Yes.
So, and I think we have all these assets that are already ready and trained to come here. I think a lot of animation school took really early stage the fact that the real-time pipeline, which is a different pipeline on animation, was needed to be implemented into the school. So maybe we are not the first one in the world to implement that, but we were not really too late. And that's really good for me. So I can hire these people because they are ready. So we have the students, we have the state behind. You took the tax credit, which is not perfect in my field, but
we're going to get to that, yes.
Let's see for later. Just to give an example also, it's like on my field, you have a lot of different grants you can apply. One is called a development grants. So it's not a lot of money, it's small amount of money, but really early stage. And thanks to these little grants that not a lot of people have, you can produce a prototype, and with that, you can differentiate yourself from another producer, and then you can go to the big player and say, oh, I don't only have a deck or 2 concept art. I have a prototype to show you. You know, like, look, put the headset on and see that you need to invest on my project. And I think that's a big stuff. Even if this grant is the smaller one, it's not the one that you have later, but it's really helpful to help us to show people that we have the talent. Because let's face the fact, a lot of time, when you're a French producer, you're still a French producer. So you need to do double the effort to convince big people or the GAFA or the studio to come on board and to trust you.
Yes, I was going to ask Jacques if you still feel like a French producer.
Yes, I'm still feeling that, but I think what it's interesting regarding a little bit in the past, because now we are working from almost 15 years. And I think it's a mix in between American culture, the American way of produce, and the fact that in France we are very productive, very creative, and we have a lot of people very talentful. And this is what the Universal is used to say. We are coming because of the tax rebate, even if the tax rebate didn't exist when we started, but now we are staying because of the quality of the talent. And this was something which is very, very important. We have a big legacy of culture in animation, but also in culture of pictures also. Technically speaking, we are very good. And even it's always a kind of tradition to say that French people are not working, French people are lazy. It's absolutely and through, and they are very productive, and they are very, very able to have different tasks in mind. This is very creative and very technically speaking. Sorry, we are very good, and this is why the. But I think we are still French. But to be honest, we are working on American production movie, but with a French way of doing, and more than 95% of the team are French on the movie.
Oh wow,
Of
99.
course,
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought there was more
of
international.
course, we have some American directors, American editors, American production designer, but the mix in between, I think one of the key and one of the explanation of our success, if we can say that, we have to stay very humble, but it's the fact that nobody is trying to explain what is a better way to do it, and it's a way of we are always working together, and this is the key point. And now I think we belongs to a big group because Universal belong to Comcast. Now Comcast and Universal bought DreamWorks. I think that was 4 years ago, and we are in the same group, but we still keep our identity. And I think the Illumination McGuff identity is European and French.
Amazing. Cécile, can you tell us about Les Gobelins has also become more international in the last decade?
Yes, absolutely. Next year, in the animation department, there will be 50% international students.
Wow.
Yeah. For the bachelor and the master. Yes. So a big internationalization, yes.
And what is the department that you're heading, the international department? What does it entail?
I mean, what do you mean?
What is it made of? The international department.
The international department. It's made of a team.
You have two programs, right? You have one for
the animation department is a bachelor and a master. And then we have a francophone class and an anglophone class.
Oh, you have an English-speaking class now.
It's the same program, but the class is taught in English.
And it launched a few years ago, in 2016, I believe?
It opened in 2016 by the master level, and it worked. So now we have a bachelor level as well with these two classes, yes.
Wow. Why did you launch this English-speaking division?
We had a lot of demand first of students who wanted to access the school but couldn't access it because it was in French. So they had to learn French, and it was also a shame to, let go of these talents because of, linguistics problems and not animation problems. And also, I think it was very necessary at the time for Gobelins to adapt to the new world, and also to help our students to get a multicultural culture as well, because the studios are now multicultural, so they need to have they need to speak English, and they need to have this multicultural soft skills that are very important for the studios now.
So where do they come from?
17 different nationalities average. Wow. They come from all continents. This year we have people from the States. We have a lot of European people, but also, Brazil, Costa Rica, Uruguay, Africa, China, India, all over the world, really.
You have half of the students are now international, right?
Yes, 50%, yes.
That's impressive. Béatrice, how important is it also for you to have, as international teams working?
It's true that it's good for English because it's one of the main obstacles we have to work on international projects. Language is still something that you need to struggle to find the right talent that are able to communicate properly with the client. And I wish we get back some French students that came abroad and because of a kind of job that was not available in France, in visual effects, I mean. But it's true that we see more and more international artists on the studio, thanks to I think the kind of projects that are coming now in France, and all try to speak French.
Yes, and actually, it seems that the projects that are being made here in France are using more and more VFX anyway, right? So you have bigger projects for artists to stay and be excited about.
Yes, it's true that the French market was very diverse, but not very oriented to visual effects. And we saw last year, a massive change with first the Episodic, the series that comes and ask more visual effect, high-end visual effect on Episodics, and also with tax credit, the rebate, the 10% bonus that helps to have bigger projects in France. And so this is a virtuous circle. When you have more big projects, you have more artists that come back or on your studio and you are able to work on bigger projects. That's it.
Can you name like a few big French projects that you've done? I think there is Aline, the Céline Dion biopic, which used a lot of visual effects, I could tell.
Yes.
It's amazingly well done, by the way. It's great because it's, Valérie Lemercier basically playing Céline Dion when she was a kid. And I don't know how you made that, but...
Yeah, thank you. Recently we worked on Aline, on the Illusion Perdue too.
Yeah, Lost Illusions, Xavier Giannoli's movie, which competed at Venice.
Yes, that's it.
Amazing. Okay, that's great. And for you, Antoine, I mean, you work also with some international filmmakers to do virtual reality.
I think, we really early stage we decided to bring some AAA people into our team and casting our EP, because right now VR, and especially the last months, because announcement of the metaverse, and so now it's really fashionable, but at the time it was really hard to convince somebody to put a headset on and to watch something. Like 99% of the people after they try were happy, but to hope for them to put the headset was really difficult. Even my really close friends, I was like, do you want to watch a movie? They were like, after a beer, and they never did that. So we decided to bring some big names and talent because it helps a lot to increase the curiosity of the audience. We're all the same. If we see the name we know on a poster, of course, we have a little bit more confidence of trying this thing. So we did that a lot into the casting for the actors, because as we're doing a lot of animation, voiceover is really helpful to have a nice casting and not too expensive, because it's only a few days of recording. On the creation side, it's different. The few creators we work with, like Jan Kunen or Darren Aronofsky, they came with the project. So we didn't have to approach them. They had the curiosity to wanted to try VR and to try the new medium. Of course, we tried to talk to a lot of other famous directors. Some of them we developed for months and nothing happened yet. Some other were like, it's amazing, but not for me, which I totally respect. You need to have the curiosity to go that way. So yes, we try to continue to secure a lot of this kind of collaboration.
And what's amazing, I think, about France is that it's always director-driven, no matter what we're doing, whether it's animation or, even visual effects. We're doing things differently with like a real, director signature. And also in VR, when you're saying that directors come to you with projects, I think that's very interesting. But what about the French touch? I know that Jacques Bled has an opinion about the French touch. But you were saying earlier that we do things differently.
My opinion, I think, is something we have to share, but not to. No. My opinion, I'm not sure there is in animation there is especially a French touch. I think we have a very good basis with very good school, with a lot of talented people. But for me, the French touch is something which has been invented by the journalists a few years ago, when they imagined that all the American animation studios, which were larger than now in America, who are full of French, but they are also full of Spanish, German, Chinese, Indian people. I think the French touch is what we are able to do, the way that we're able to work with simple things to create new process. And this is the reason why for the large image industry, we are good. We are good in VR, we are good in visual effect, we are good in animation, and because of the culture and because of the fact that we have a way to check and to handle and to manage the relationship between the creation, the technique, and the fact that we are also able to stay in budget and being able to have a real consideration of the whole process of production. That could be maybe the French touch. It's more a way to survive at the beginning, because I remember when we start in 86, we were
1986.
working 35 years ago when I started and we create McGuff. At the same time, brief company start, and we said we have to survive until we are working for American company. And this is what arrived for Brief and McGuff, but also Micros and now a lot of other company, because the key point was the size of the market in France, which was too small, and this is the reason why we decided at one time that for us that was the beginning of 2003 to create a subsidiary here in America.
Yes, and also, but when you work for big American studios and you have hundreds of animators working on something, and then all of a sudden you don't have anything, how do you keep the company going? So I guess now you don't have this problem because you have how many projects at the same time? You have a lot, right? You have 4?
Yeah, currently we are making 4 movies. We've just finished 2 movies. One is released now. The other one will be released over the summer. And after that, we have 4 movies. We are currently working on 4 movies, which will be normally released in between now and 2024. And after that, we will also have 2 other movies in development in order to keep the level of activity until 25-26. But this is a kind of change because the partnership with company and major like Universal allowed us to have that kind of projection, which is a chance. And this is also a good way to secure, of course, our process and also to train people and to have the ability to have people working on different projects and also able to start junior and become senior after spending 5-10 years in our studio or somewhere else. So this is, and we also have a very important department at Illumination, which is the marketing department. Marketing department is producing short film. I guess we have produced more than 25 short films with Illumination, and it's also a very good way of training people who are going out from the school. And this is very important because this is the way to have them starting working with our tools, because we're mixing regular tools and proprietary software, and this is a good way also to put them into the buy process for the feature film.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much. And in terms of budget, you touched on one of the things that the French touch is about is also to be able to work with restrained budgets and make things look beautiful. I guess that's one of the things that we've been doing. Do you agree with that? When companies come to you also for visual effects, do you feel like you're able to make things happen with a restrained budget?
I totally agree with what Jacques said. We need to survive in a market that was not that may not have the ability to. I don't want to say that the French market is not a good one. This is we worked on so great movies, but it's true that with the globalization and with international producer, we don't see the same kind of budget for doing the same kind of thing. But it's true that we have developed maybe a way to be very efficient and to always think twice when beginning a new project. How can we be the more efficient? How can we serve the story with what we know with techniques and to find solution even if the budget is not open budget.
And what about you, Antoine, in virtual reality? Are you also able to work with tight budgets? I mean, I know that most of the times you have much lower budget than they have in the US, right?
So I think definitely I'm the indie one there, you know. Of course, because VR is new, the budgets are small because the market is small. So everything makes sense, you know. Like I'm targeting 10 million users around the world, and I'm not making difference if they're French, US. I don't care. Like they have a device, they're my market. So of course the market is smaller, so my budgets are smaller. But I think I come from the indie scenes all my life, so we know how to adapt. And I think constraint is a huge thing to creation. And as long as you know in advance what can be your budget, then you just make the project that fits the budget you'll have. Sometimes I have amazing project that comes to me, and I know that doing them today will be impossible because I will need to require 5 or 6 million euros to make this project, which is impossible to get in VR right now. I'm sure it will be soon. So I'm not saying the director to change everything. I'm saying like, let's do another one together and we'll come back on this when the market will be bigger and the budget will be bigger because the people will give the money, will have some recoupment. So right now, yeah, we're working on smaller budget, but in comparison, I will not compare myself to US or non-US because I see myself as an international producer for international audience. Really, as I told before, my market is so small, like I cannot subdivide it by territory. So for me, it's more, I think I'm having, if you put aside the GAFA budget that they're doing their own internal project, like Oculus, when they had an Oculus studio that put 12 million on a project, but a lot of that was R&D, so I'm not even sure everything went to screen. I think we have reasonable budget because we are doing co-production with them and other country. So if I want to secure only French funding, it won't be enough to compete, but there is a way, and there is a lot of way to make all that come together in the same pot. And that's what we're trying to do.
Speaking of R&D, I mean, how important is R&D today in our industries, like animation, VFX industries, and virtual reality?
I think I will not even call that just R&D. So R&D is a big stuff. It's huge. Like we need to know what kind of motion capture is the best, or volumetric capture, which kind of volumetric capture can be into a Quest or a Rift. I don't want to get boring in specific details. I think the main thing right now is the shift for the big industry, but also for me a lot, on the real-time engine and the real-time pipeline. So of course, when you do real-time, you also do classic 3D that you put after into the game engine, but it's a lot of new skills that students are getting there and a lot of people are getting there. It's really hard to understand for a lot of people that come from non-real-time engine. So a lot of people succeed to adapt. Some other prefer not to, then no problem. We'll put them on the pipe where they can continue to use 3ds Max and they'll send the asset to somebody that will receive that in real time. But some of them are really curious to move to real time. You know, a lot of animator or people are like 40, 45, and I'm like, I'm not old enough to not learning, so they want to jump to the new pipeline. So it's a big learning phase and learning curve, and not only R&D, because it's not only research, because we're already applying that to the project, but I think the shift is huge right now into this new pipeline and how to incorporate that. I think we all read the news about like Weta buying Peter Jackson Studio, Unity buying Weta, and all this new stuff that, and of course it's just an announcement because right now nothing of what they say is ready and won't be for the next 2-3 years, but we know we're getting there. So I think R&D was 4-5 years ago, it was a lot of R&D, and right now I think it's like, how do you say, applicable R&D, something that we really use and put into the project. But yes, a small part of the, like let's say 20% of your budget at the end won't go to screen because you will fail a lot trying to learn the new pipeline.
Great. And Jacques, what about R&D at Illumination McGuff?
But since the beginning, R&D has always been very important because we are used to work with regular software coming from the Autodesk or stuff like that, and as we need to being better than the other one, and we have to develop our own software, and we have our team is not that big. It's almost 35 people, but we are working on all the part of all the department, and I guess currently 50% of the pipe is based on the software we have done here in the R&D team. All the lighting and compose software is proprietary, and this is very important even when you use different part of existing software like Maya, Houdini, Nuke. Even it's useful, but in the meantime, it's very important to use that software in the good direction. And film after film, we need to be better. We need to enhance the quality of the picture. We need to enhance also the fact that the animation must be going faster than before. So it's very important to have a big R&D team supporting all what the talent are needed, because the point is that the R&D is there to create new tools and to also being able to put this tool in a regular and solid process. And we change the process every time, we change the tool every time, and research and development is very important. And I'd just like to mention that since the beginning, now 35 years with McGuff and now Illumination McGuff, the CNC has always been very, very important for R&D too, because
Yes, it's
the
part of the
RAM,
tax
because
credit,
of
right?
all the device provided by the CNC since the beginning and still now are very important, because we never have been able to do what we have done without the CNC support. And of course, the tax rebate is something which has been also created with the CNC, handled by the CNC. And this is something very, very important, because when you can imagine to reimburse at the end of one project some in between 25 and 30% of the whole amount of the budget, it's amazing. It's the only way to be competitive regarding other territories. And this is a very, very important thing to mention, I guess, for French attractivity. All that was stuff and all what has been done, we enhance, we strengthening the process, but the CNC is one of the key points.
What's the budget of Sing 2, for example?
Sorry?
The budget of Sing 2.
The budget of Sing 2 is about $100 million.
And do you think that if it had
Including everything, including the cast, and the cast is very, very famous, because we have Matthew McConaughey, Bono, Scarlett Johansson, with Witherspoon, so you can imagine the price of this guy. But no, this is budget-wise, we are very high regarding the French market. We are a little bit under production from Disney or Pixar. It's just the business model that Chris Landry want to put when we start working together. And that means that, of course, the box office must be at the same scale.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, so you're below Pixar and Disney. I'm just wondering, like, if it had been made entirely in the US, it would probably cost way more, right?
But now it's complicated, because in fact there is still no more production offices or production facilities in animation in the US. Everything moved in Canada, in India, everywhere in the world. So we can imagine that could be a little bit more expensive in the US, but it's very complicated to compare right now, because a lot of part of the stud is split in between different locations and different facilities.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the tax rebate, so what's the state of play right now with the tax rebate?
Sorry.
For animation, how does it work for animation specifically, and virtual effects, visual effects? There is a new bonus for visual effects.
Yeah, I won't speak about animation, but concerning the VFX, there is it was a 30% tax rebate on any French spend. And when you hit the 2 million spend in VFX in France, you beneficiate on a 10% bonus that is also on every spend, meaning the shooting spend in France. So this is really a win-win situation. when you know, VFX are global now. You can do your visual effects anywhere in the world. But when you shooting here in France, you're shooting in France because this is France. And to have this bonus, when you have 2 million of VFX in France, you have 40% of tax rebate in all your shooting spends, is the very good situation for the VFX in France, and makes us competitive with other locations like Montreal is around 40 to 43. So it's and the bonus you have when you shoot here because of the 2 million of VFX is really efficient for making international production do the VFX in France.
Yeah, what's interesting is that for live action movies, the movie needs to be shot in France or have like French technicians, like French crew members, etc. But for a VFX, it doesn't have to have any link with France, right? You can attract any kind of project that's not linked to France and just benefit from the tax rebate if you have it done in France, basically. The VFX work.
Yeah, technically it's not the same criteria that are applied to see. We are on the same criteria of animation where there is no live action in France to see if it's eligible for the tax rebate. But yeah, basically you can do your VFX, beneficiate from the tax rebate even if you don't shoot in France.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us examples, like big titles that you worked on that didn't shoot in France and did the VFX?
For example, we worked recently on part of Lost in Space, which is not shot in France, but it was they don't have a 40% tax rebate, but it was we are in an international group, so it makes it easy for the client to see if the location that have more availability, or so this is one of the situations that I can share.
Amazing. And in terms of virtual reality, is the tax also rebate a criteria, something that's important to you?
It is. There is different one that we need to navigate. Like VR can be different, a lot of things. If you're doing a game and it's your own game, you have a national tax credit that you can apply because VR can enter the game tax credit, which is really good. Even if we're not doing a lot of game, we're doing one or two, and it's really helpful to know that we can count on that. International tax credit is really good also. That's how we did Spheres, the project with Darren Aronofsky, because even if I think he liked the team, he wanted to work with us, but you still need to be competitive, and the tax credit was a big plus. I'm not sure that without the tax credit, maybe we will have done the project. Nobody knows, but I'm not sure. Right now, we're working on a big existing IP, something that we didn't create, that is already something that everybody knows. And we secured the project because we had the international tax credit coming part. And they didn't know about that. They didn't knew it was possible in VR. So when we did a breakdown and saying, oh, you don't have to bring this money, the state will give it. It was a big change, and that's how we win the bid. It was not really a bid, it was more a collaboration, but that's how we secure the fact that they will make the fabrication in our studio in Lyon. So yeah, it's really, really helpful to have that.
Amazing. And another aspect that has changed, revolutionized almost the animation industry in France is the arrival of streaming services, which are investing heavily in animation. Cécile, can you tell me about what do you see as the impact of streaming services in the animation landscape, especially Netflix?
Well, Netflix is a partner of Gobelins, but mostly the big change is the increase in productions, the increase in certain formats as well, such as series. Also the change in short films within Love, Death and Robots. The collections of short films is very important as well. So the diversity in formats, the diversity in stories, the diversity in artists as well is increasing. Talking about Netflix, they're helping as well. For example, they're giving grants for African artists to be able to come to study in France. And animation, and yeah, there's a bubbling, an increasing bubbling of the industries and the formats. Yes.
So how is this partnership working with Netflix? So they're giving grants to African students to come study at the Gobelins, and
Yes.
what else are they doing?
They're doing mostly this.
That's amazing.
Yes, absolutely. So this year we have 9 African students in the animation program, mostly in masters. And they're also helping them, giving advice, also for their career, and they're being, godfathers, if I can say that. Yeah.
And do you also see a change in the type of animation that's being made? I think that there are more and more adult skewing animated films also. That's another big trend. Do you see that as well at Les Gobelins?
Yeah, absolutely. In our graduation films, there's been a clear change. In the past, I'd say 30, 20 years ago, animation was considered mostly as a kids, for a kids audience. So we had, the students wanted to do fun, comedy, cute for kids. Now it's changing. It started more and more and more the political animation, social subjects, but not only, things for young adults as well.
It started out with Persepolis and with Vels with Bashir, and
Yes.
now it's become like a real trend. I mean,
Absolutely.
I Lost My Body, for example, the Jeremy Clapin movie, played at Directors Fortnight, was nominated for an Oscar, so it's a big, and that was actually really for adults.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes, the two big prizes we had, the 2 annual awards our students won, was on subjects that, addiction to new technology for one, and the other one was about migration. So not for kids.
yes, definitely. And also in VR, there is also a trend for like more serious stories, not like what we think when we think of virtual reality, like stuff like video games style things. I feel like there are more and more serious issues
That's a big
tackled.
thing. That's a big thing in VR, because VR right now is not really recommended to children under, I think, 12 or 13, depending on the country. So it's not by law. So it's a recommendation. It's not illegal to put a VR headset on the children, but still, when you buy an Oculus, they say try not to put that on a kids under 13. So as producer, of course, we try to target an audience when we do a project. Like when you receive a project, one of the first question is, who is the target for this project? What will be the audience? And if you think that the audience will be kids from 7 to 11, then as a VR producer, you try not to do that right now, maybe in a few years. So on purpose, we choose only topics that are for adult or, grown-up children, 13, 14, which is almost teenager at this today to be 14. So yeah, we do only animation for young adults or adults on purpose.
And what are the streaming services looking for today in animation? What do you see? The two, I mean,
I don't work with
No,
them.
no, yeah.
They're not in VR yet.
Cécile, what do you think they're looking for?
Stories,
Yeah.
talents. Graphic talents, of course, but yeah, new stories and a new energy as well from a new generation. Yes.
Why do you think that they're going for animation? Like, why do you think they want to invest in French animation?
In French animation specifically, well, I agree with Jacques. There's a legacy. There's a graphic excellence as well. When I talk to international studios, they tell me, graphic excellence, low budget, excellent education. The 3 things that are coming back, but. Many new stories, new style, experimenting, people who dare doing things, have fun, and energy and use of new innovations as well, especially real time. Yeah, it's very popular.
And I think that one of the things that sets the French animation industry apart is also the ability to come up with original stories that are not based on literary work, like in Scandinavia, for example, where it's much stronger. And Jacques, I mean, I think it's so amazing that what you've been able to create with brand new IPs and make them, like, turn them into like global franchises. How did you come up with those ideas, like Despicable Me?
But it's strange because this Despicable Me first idea is coming from a Spanish guy a long time ago. After that, it had been mixed and produced by Chris Meledandri, American guy, but with Italian roots. And after that, it became to Pierre Coffin. Pierre Coffin is a French guy, and he's a co-director with Pierre was Chris Renaud. Chris Renaud is an American guy. So, in fact, it's very international, and good ideas are not coming from everywhere. Coming from everywhere. They're not coming from. And in that kind of thing, the fact that the Minions and Despicable Me become famous, it's also because people can identify a little bit, not to the Minion, except maybe some dumb people, but no, I'm joking. But it is the fact that it's talking to everybody. And the point regarding that kind of blockbuster animation, which is a different market from what you mentioned before, some French movie for adults. It's also because we try to to have the largest audience, children, of course, but parents, even grandpa, all that kind of thing is something to mix. And after that, we don't know exactly. We're not able to say and to know before that gonna work. It's just because we try, and after that, being tried to be funny, to have a good idea, to have emotion, to have humor, all that kind of stuff could be interesting. In the meantime, and I think it's interesting which happened with a different way of funding with the platform, and the other thing that the animation can open to a different market for adults. This is something I always remember, that people would like to make some animation for adult or young adult, and now it's possible. So it's amazing. It's a very new, interesting endeavor which happen right now, mixing the platform and mixing the fact that it's more easy to produce animation than before. There is a lot of very positive point, and I also would like to thank again the CNC, because it's something that they always have been very careful. They always pay attention to the fact that the animation industry, the VFX industry, is still there in front. And even at the very beginning, when we started in the middle of the 80s, without the CNC, we are not able to do anything. So they're always going to be on our side, and it's very important to go on in that direction. And the fact that they would like to strengthening the process and the device for the tax rebate, it's a very good news. And in fact, the tax rebate is also very good news for the French, because when you invest €1 in the tax rebate, for the community, it's almost €4 who are being back. For example, Universal invests at this stage almost €1 billion in France, and almost 400 million are coming for revenue, tax on the revenue, fringe or stuff like that. So it's a very win-win, very interesting win-win deal with the tax rebate, because that means that French company, VR, animation, VFX, production, film, everybody is more and more attractive, and this is a real benefit for everybody and for France.
For sure. And you also, when you work with a platform, the other thing that's really changed in terms of perspective is that you're making content for the whole world and not just for the French market. So that also means you probably have to, get to work on bigger budgets. I assume. But it's also, I'm just wondering, in terms of the threat of shortage of talent, do you see that happening in France? Any fears of talent shortage in the years to come?
Right now already.
You mean now?
Yeah, it's already the case, but exactly. What's your take on that?
I mean, I don't think there's any brain drain. And the students are, the graduates are traveling, all around the world. They're attracted by projects and not specifically by countries. So we see that they travel and they come back to France and then they travel again.
So they're returning.
They're returning and they're going and returning and going, and which means that they network a lot. Okay, and with social networks, they know everything that is happening everywhere. But there's a need for more and more talents because the production is increasing, the format of projects are increasing, the number of projects are increasing. So shortage of talent. I think we will always have a lot of talents, but we need to train them, and we also need to open up the secondary education as well, sensitize the people in high school about these professions, and mostly women as well. They tend not to go to technical careers more and more, but this is very important.
And Jacques, you're also facing a threat of shortage because you need a lot of people working on your blockbusters. How is the pandemic changing the way that you're hiring or the landscape for new artists?
But the way how we hire people is changing a little bit because now, with the fact that most of them are working remotely, they are able to work remotely in France for foreign countries. But in the meantime, we are also able to hire people who are living in South America, in America, or in Asia. So the thing is very, very different. Currently, it's a very huge competition, and I think it's a good thing. That means that there is a lot of work everywhere. And at Illumination, we always have tried to take time to train people when they come out from the school, because we need to learn them our own software and also our way of process in terms of it's the reality for a lot of departments, because we are working with our tools but also with our process. So that means that you have a lot of time to spend with junior people when they can. But I think, globally speaking, the quality of what they are able to do now is really amazing, and they are much more better than we were when we start working at this stage. But in the meantime, it's quite complicated for company like us, because we are not that big but a little big, to make them involved in the process like in a small company. This is the thing we are working on, and I think it's very important to find a way, because it's important to have good project, but also it's important to save time to talk, to discuss, to exchange with the young people.
Thank you. And Antoine, so I think you're going to Sundance very soon, right?
I am. Yeah, we have a new project that is a co-production with the UK and supported by the CNC and by Arte, called On the Morning You Wake. So yes, I will. I was not at Les Arcs, but I will be at Sundance.
You will shine, make France shine at Sundance.
I hope. I will convince them to come to work more, because yes, there is a shortage.
Yes, exactly. And you also need to recruit more students. But I think it's an exciting time for the animation and visual effects and virtual reality industry. And, as Jacques was saying, the government is really pushing for it and willing to invest, because it's a matter of, soft power also for France. So thank you so much for coming with us and sharing, and for Jacques to connect early in the morning. And best of luck with Sing 2. I hope it will be very, very successful in theaters around the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.